Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dubes & Co with you until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, I've got my panel, Ben Habib, the chairman of the Great British PAC, and Matt Laza, the former Labour Party advisor. Lots of you getting in touch, talking about the press conference that Nigel Farage held today. Lots of you seem to be quite galvanised by what you heard. Alistair, though, says, Michelle, at the end of the day, where are the Tories in all of this? Some people even feel that they represent the working people better than the Labour Party. We'll keep your thoughts on that one coming in, but if you did miss it, let's just play a clip then, shall we, of some of the things that Nigel Farage was saying today.
If we win the next election, we will scrap net zero, something that is costing the Exchequer an extraordinary £40 billion plus every year. There will be no more asylum hotels or houses of multiple occupancy. People who come here illegally across the channel or on the back of lorries will not be allowed to stay. We will scrap the DEI agenda, which is costing the taxpayer up to £7 billion a year throughout the public sector. And yes, we see considerable savings to be made amongst the quangos. So yes, I do accept that these proposals, especially the one of lifting to £20,000 the level at which people start paying tax, I accept that it's expensive, but I genuinely believe that we can pay for it because we're not ideologically tied to the same ideas upon which we believe the Conservative and Labour governments have gone so wrong over the course of the last few years.
Matt Laza, Nigel Farage the other day was saying that he believes that Reform UK are the real opposition to the Labour Party. Many people would say that the Labour Party are basically following and being led by Reform UK. What do you think some of what you're hearing from Nigel there?
Well, I mean, I think that they in a sense, he's right that they're the main opposition because the Tories are just in a state of absolute meltdown. We've now seen them coming fourth in opinion polls over the last 10 days behind the Liberal Democrats. Maybe they'll slip to fifth behind the Greens. I mean, the Tories are on the verge of irrelevance. So I think in a sense, I'm glad that Nigel gave this speech today because we've got real meat to get our teeth into, real policy meat and real discussions to have. But I think it's complete...
When you say get your teeth into, do you mean to analyse or to copy?
Well, I think to analyse, not to copy. I think the worst thing the Labour Party could do is try and out-reform reform. That doesn't mean to say that it doesn't mean the Labour Party shouldn't do sensible things to keep migration under control, and we can go on and look at the other things. But I don't think the Labour Party should follow itself just trying to chuck ideas out there just to seem to be reform light. I actually think that's a disaster for the Tories as well, because the Tories will lose some other support. But I mean, because there are things in here that Labour will, you cannot increase the tax threshold to 20,000. It will bankrupt the country.
Why do you say that, Matthew?
Because of the cost. I mean, basically, Nigel's given a speech today in which he thinks taking down a couple of pride flags is going to save sort of 25 billion quid a year. I've got a message for Nigel. No, it isn't. And what's interesting is he was sat there.
Hold on, Matt Laza, don't be daft. That's not what he said. He didn't say I'm going to take 2 flags down, therefore I can take the personal allowance down to 20 grand. That's
one of his big savings was on DEI. What's hilarious is all these councillors have come in, and he was surrounded today by his council leaders who were going to have to take tough decisions. And quite a lot of them found out that quite a lot of these county councils didn't spend a penny on DEI, so that's the first cut that they can't make.
I mean, you can't quantify the damage done by DEI because the damage is manifold, and it's not just in direct cost of employing people to enforce DEI. The real cost is in progressive discrimination of people into jobs and positions which they shouldn't hold because they're not the best at it. And what we're doing is setting aside meritocracy in favour of progressive discrimination. And that has a massive unquantifiable cost for the country, not to mention obviously all the cultural damage. DEI is a fundamentally divisive, pernicious government policy that has has to be ditched.
But it's not going to pay for a tax. It's not going to pay for increasing by 40% the tax threshold.
You can't quantify it, but the damage done by it is vast. And so if you were to remove it, there's bound to be upside. It's a bit like ditching net zero. Again, Nigel Farage quantified DEI as 7 billion a year and he quantified net zero as 40 billion a year. Actually, the money will be much, much bigger. The economy will do much better than that, because net zero isn't just the cost of the actual grants being given to renewable energy companies. The cost of net zero, true cost of net zero, is all the burdens being foisted on households to insulate, offices to insulate, office properties becoming redundant and having to be knocked down, perfectly good cars having to be written off, ULEZ charges, and so on and so forth. It has a domino effect right across the country, not least of which is the massive cost of energy for industry, which hollows out our industry.
But I agree with you. We need
it.
more competitive energy prices.
Yeah.
But
so it's not 40 billion. We're talking about potentially.
But today, Nigel, what's very extraordinary today is that Nigel has basically announced a £3.5 billion increase in the welfare bill.
So that's a very interesting debate. I don't know if we've got to that point.
What are we talking about?
So this is removing the cap on 2 children. Yeah. So if you have more than 2 children and you're in receipt of income-related benefits, basically universal credit and all its components, then you don't get any extra acknowledgement of that. You don't get any extra benefit within the means-tested thing. And that's a huge thing. He said it will increase work. There's actually very little evidence of that. The Tories introduced it for a reason. Labour's kept it because Labour's big thing is to get people off benefit and into work, to reskill the British workforce. And yet Nigel is trying. I'm not sure it's been thought through, because all the polling evidence shows that the right of centre voters are very in favour of this cap, and they're not against it. And I think it's Nigel getting a bit too clever by half. Tactically, it's a good idea to put your tanks on Labour's lawn, but whether politically in the medium term it is, if you're annoying some of your supporters, those on slightly higher incomes, you don't want to pay the tax to pay for those benefits.
Yeah, but let's be clear then, because if someone from Reform was here now, what they would say is, right, today it was all about kind of setting the direction of travel. So these are the kind of principles that we hold, the way that we want to be working towards, and so on and so forth. All of these numbers need to be fleshed out and thought through and all the rest of it. He would say, or Reform would say, I'm sure, that this whole 2-child benefit cap, it's all about fostering families, encouraging the birth rate to increase in this country, by definition then reducing immigration, the dependence on migrants in things like the workforce. So they would argue that that's why
the child benefit doesn't achieve increasing child benefit doesn't achieve those aims, Michelle, because effectively what happens with child benefit is you're rewarding people who aren't working. Nigel Farage made a big thing about representing the working class, and I completely agree with him. You should only be, frankly, in frontline politics if it's the working and middle classes whom you wish to represent. They're the people that most matter in the country in a democracy. But actually, when you incentivize people to have children when they're not working, because this is a dependency-related payment, and as you said yourself before we went on air, you can't get it for your children because actually you pay tax. You're precisely the kind of person who should be encouraged to have children. And so it shouldn't be just the state handing out goodies. That perpetuates the dependency culture.
It's not that I can't get child benefit because I pay tax. It's that when you get to a certain level, when you get to a certain level, which, by the way, I think is completely wrong, because I think in this country, when people become higher or additional taxpayers or whatever it is, to then say, actually, do you know what, you pay massively and heavily into the state, but guess what, you can get pretty much nada out of it. I think that is personally wrong.
The people we want procreating are the people who are working, who have aspiration, who have desires, and we need to make it easier for them to procreate and have children. And therefore, that isn't done through furthering a massive culture of dependency that we already have in this country. The way to do it is give people tax breaks on having children, on being married, on the family unit. And
but that's one of the things that they was proposing today. They were talking about incentivising tax-wise the institution of marriage.
But the policy that was revealed was a deeply damaging policy, which is incentivising those who can least afford it to have children. And by the way, it is the white majority in Western countries that are not procreating. There is no shortage of procreation amongst ethnic minorities in the West.
But that's what he was saying. Yeah, but he was specifically asked that by Adam Cherry, actually, the GBNews presenter. I think, have I got time to show you this clip quickly? Because Adam Cherry asked about this. Listen.
Just on the detail of what you're announcing today, are you scrapping the benefit cap entirely, or are you introducing a new cap of 3 or 4 children? And then on the shared family tax allowance, are you putting a figure on that today, or is it just sort of in principle.
Yeah, it'll be up to a £5,000 transferable allowance, all right, which would help, say one of the parents wanted to spend a bit more time at home in the first 18 months, 2 years of a child's life. Those allowances could be transferred. It would give people more options and greater flexibility. We're not putting a cap on the number of children. I want to re-emphasise, this is not for people who arrive in Britain from overseas and have lots and lots of kids. It's designed to help hard-working, though slightly low-paid British workers.
But that doesn't address my point. What I said was that it's the white majority in Western countries who are not procreating. They're the one. That's the population that's dying. Ethnic minorities are growing, quite happily. There's no problem with that. And actually, when you couple that with DEI, I know Nigel Farage wants to abolish DEI, but when you couple the incentivising of ethnic minorities having children with DEI, actually you've got a Molotov cocktail.
It's the magic money tree. I mean, it's actually, as he says, it's not true that it would go to people who were available to claim benefits under the benefit system, who would get it. You can't discriminate on that basis. And this £5,000 tax-free allowance, it's the magic money tree. It can't all be paid for by getting rid of DEI and net zero, which is a complicated issue. It's going to end up with tax rises for the rest of us. Yeah. And at least we now know what reform stands for. It's fantasy economics.
It wasn't just cutting down pride flags and stuff like that he was saying that would fund this.
It's a good line, though, wasn't it, Michelle?
It was. No, I think it was ridiculous. It's not true. It was all about reducing quangos, reducing DEI, reducing all of the asylum costs. So there was a whole package of reform.
On the asylum costs, he was asked
about $350 billion.
He's going to get rid of asylum hotels. What's he actually going to do? People are not going to suddenly start coming because Nigel's elected as Prime Minister. And the people in the hotels, what's he going to do? Just kick them out in the street, put them at gunpoint back to France?
Actually,
I'm actually asking genuinely.
Andrea Jenkins had a great policy. She said we should put them in tented camps. So,
That's not free.
Under military. No, but it's a lot cheaper than a 4-star hotel.
Well, there you go. This is a conversation that will rumble on, and you will have strong opinions on it at home. Tell me them.